If you are a conservative in Tennessee and you actually want to get the news that left-leaning corporate media outlets will not tell you, if you want to get the news that RINO Republicans awash in special interest money would rather you not hear, then you've come to the right place. This is the TenCon Big 7 Weekend Update. We have got stories about getting some kids out of failing schools. We've got stories about Republicans who want Democrats to be voting in our GOP primaries. We have got stories about establishing term limits, or not so much. We have stories about censorship. Some of these I'm going to have to catch you up on, and I'll tell you why in a moment. We have got stories about keeping training out of schools that teaches white people to be ashamed of their race. We have some fantastic reading material that is primarily pornographic being sent into Tennessee schools, and much more. Guys, now listen. I was contacted by the Tennessee Department of Health last week, and they were not very happy with me. They said there had been a huge uptick in self-harm, depression, and anxiety in the conservative community last week because I was not here to do the TenCon Big 7 update. I was high atop the Sandias in the staying at my cabin up here that I built out of stone with my own hands. I actually rent it all from the earth in 3 days' time, and I built that place and camped out in it. It was very fun. No, I'm just joking. I was speaking at a conference in the painting industry where I make my money. I do not make any money from the Tennessee Conservative, nor do I take a dime out of it, but rather I come here to bring you the news. So I'm sorry that I was not here last week. This is where I was. This is the only fun thing I got to do aside from looking at the inside of an Uber, a plane, a hotel room, and a conference room, although it was fun to be out there with the folks who ply the trade that help Casa de Lewis keep the lights on. Now, I must tell you quickly, we are at 36% of our $10,000 goal for March. Now, why do we raise money specifically in the month of March? And you may think that is a tiny little goal. Well, conservatives don't give that much, and only less than 5% of our subscribers to our publication actually get off their tuchus and donate. Everybody talks all the time, but they don't necessarily walk all the time. I once said that if you will not give money or time to the things that you profess to be your core values because you're afraid that it might make you a little poorer, or you're afraid you might lose a dollar, or you are afraid of what other people think, then your core values are holding on to every penny and approval. And so if you want to stand with me, Tennessee's only conservative news publication bringing you the stories that no one else will, please do go to TennesseeConservativeNews.com/support or mail donations. We've got some mail that piled up while I was gone, and I'm going to go right into the mailbag. We're going to get to these stories. Number one, very short note. Thank you for keeping it conservative. Robert, this came in with a contribution. Look at this. Very sweet. Let's see if you can see this. Thinking of you today. Well, you and two other people. Thank you very much. Dear Brandon, thank you for the very difficult work you do exposing corruption in the local, state, and national government. I recently contacted representatives in our legislature and had a response from Representative Adam Lowe. I think that's his name. He said that there was no House Bill 106. I think this is back when we were fighting the censorship stuff, and the folks on the committee, they didn't even know what the bill numbers were, or if they were still active, and they were incorrect in their replies to constituents, which some of them later corrected. Since then, I see other bills you've advocated for advancing to the Senate. Keep up the good work and the very important work. Jeannie. Sorry, I have a hard time reading sometimes. Jeannie, we got another one here. Thank you, Brandon, for all you do to keep us informed. This is from Tommy. Just put a Post-it note on a check. Thank you for the check. We have Brandon and team. Thank you for all the helpful and valuable information, Mike. I don't know Mike who. Didn't even have a return address on it. And then here's one I'm going to read, and then we're going to get right to the news stories. Hi, Brandon. Just wanted to drop a quick note to say thanks for your work. I just set up a monthly donation. My family and I are moving to Murfreesboro from California in June. I wanted to start learning about the political landscape in more detail out there, so I started looking for real conservative news in Tennessee. And surprisingly, what does he say here? It was hard to find. I know, because we're the only ones doing it. I came across your website and started listening to the podcast. And guys, if you don't subscribe to the podcast, go to where you get podcasts and do that. and I have been really impressed with the reporting. We're saving for the big move coming up, but look forward to supporting you in a bigger way once we get there. Keep up all the great work. We appreciate you. P.S. Not all Californians are liberal. I believe it. We've got lots of folks that found our publication looking to move here, and I'd say maybe, I don't know what percentage of people on our list are from out of state looking to move here, but it's a pretty big percentage. All the best, Brian. Well, thank you, Brian. That's the mailbag, guys. That's the mailbags. We're going to put this after the show into the archives. The archives. I probably should burn that from when the Gestapo comes looking for me one day. All right, let's get right into the stories. Bill to expand school vouchers passes K through 12 subcommittee. Legislation that would expand school vouchers in students in Hamilton County passed the 10K the House K through 12 subcommittee on Tuesday. House Bill 433, sponsored by State Representative Mark White, which I cannot even believe the man would touch something that had school choice associated with it, because he has killed so many school choice bills. I'm amazed he did not turn into a puddle of ooze like the wicked witch of the West. But I'm glad he did it. I don't know if he would do it for his county, but I'm glad he did it for mine. Thank you, Mark White. I know we've disagreed. I appreciate you trying to get a very small percentage of kids out of failing schools. Now, this is not for all the kids. This is for a very small minority of kids. I don't think it's where we need to go, but it is progress, like a snail going uphill. But it's progress nonetheless. White explained that he was asked to carry the House version of the bill by Senator Todd Gardenhire, who detailed Hamilton County's attempt to allow the school system opportunity to show improvement over several years. Gardenhire noted that the system has seen no real change. Well, you know what? You can come back a decade later, and all these schools will have seen the same thing that we have seen for the past decade with the supermajority in charge, which is, dum-da-da-da, drumroll please, no real change. Representative Todd Warner stated that he was in favor of school choice, but struggled when it took money away from the public school system. Todd and I agree on almost everything. I know what it is. People in these rural counties, the government job factories in their rural counties are a large voting bloc, and they're worried about their political future. Here's the thing. Government schools are not sacred. The children are sacred. They've only got a 13-year opportunity. We've had 10 years of Republican supermajority. There are kids who have started and will almost graduate in the time that we've had a Republican supermajority that will graduate functionally illiterate in failing schools full of drugs where nobody learns anything and it's just a big babysitting government job factory. Focus on the kids. If it costs you some votes, stand on principle. Who cares? Representative Brian Ritchie said, I think parents having the opportunity to be able to make decisions for what's best for them. We've always got taxpayer dollars at stake, not public school dollars that are set aside. They're taxpayer dollars to educate our kids. I support this piece of legislation. I would love to see it go ahead and expand to all 95 counties instead of just cherry-picking the big metro areas across the state. Amen, Brian Ritchie, who's been lighting them on fire up there. Got to wake some of these old corporately funded fossils up to hopefully live some of their campaign promises. A voice vote was taken. Ailes prevailed, but Todd Warner and Chairman Kirk Haston's RINO, through and through. If you got Kirk Haston as your representative, you need to find somebody in your community to primary this guy. He showed up in the RINO report time and time again. I don't know why people stand beside these government schools instead of the kids and the parents and the taxpayers. Well, I do know why. It's the money and the votes. It's not the principle. A bill has been placed on the Education Administration calendar for March 8th. Next story. Moving on. There he is again, old Brian Ritchie. Brian Ritchie. I tell you who I miss is Bruce Griffey. I miss him. But he took a better job being a judge. I don't blame him. Okay, bill to close primaries. Killed in Tennessee House Committee by voice vote. Do you want to know who the people are that voted to let Democrats vote in Republican primaries? There are their faces. Let me read them to you. I will point them out. Esther Helton. Terrible. Who votes? She was my representative before I moved in East Ridge. If you live in East Ridge or in Hamilton County, Esther Helton Haynes is a Democrat. You need to kick her out of office. John Crawford, terrible puppet appointed to this to try to rush this through and not even let there be a voice vote. Terrible. William Slater, if I recall this correctly, didn't even have the courage to freaking vote one way or the other and voted absent. If you sent William Slater up there to defend your constitutional conservative values, let it be known that he won't even vote. You got Dale Carr. He's the same one that wanted to lessen and weaken the immigration standards in Tennessee to let more illegal aliens in, Dave Wright and John B. Holtzclaw, voted to let Democrats vote in the primaries. That's really all you need to know about this story. Terrible. Look at these faces. Email these people. Ask them what planet they're living. Should just run as an independent or a Democrat. That's easy. You can pick how you run. I know these class president types, they want to go up there and be in office, but they don't want to represent their constituents. They want that corporate money, and they want that influence and that power. And they want to be recognized when they go places instead of doing the will of the people. Considering that the closing of the primaries is of great importance, and we did a survey of 1,700 people, 97+% of them, of conservative primary voters, wanted the primaries closed. Considering the closing of primaries is of great importance to those residing in the volunteer state, freshman Republican Representative Brian Ritchie was determined to make it a priority. House Bill 0405, as introduced, prescribes a process by which a person must declare the party. This week, a voice vote heard in the House Local Government Committee failed. According to the calculations of the committee chairman, Representative John Crawford, noes outnumbered A's based on the count taken by the bill's sponsors, where there were 9 A's and 8 noes. Those Republican representatives who are recording as voting yes, and these are people you need to email and thank, are Clay Doggett, Greg Martin of Hamilton County, thank you, Greg, Jerome Moon, Jay Reedy, Tim Rudd, and Robert Stevens. We had some people sending some false information out there about about them not voting for this, which is not true. Additionally, Rep. Ritchie told the Tennessee Conservative Republicans Ken Raper, Rebecca Alexander, and Jeff Burkhart also voted yes, making it a total of 9. So that's who you got right there, boys and girls. Take a picture, take a screenshot. These people need to go find a job somewhere else. Now listen, if you would like to reach the most active, engaged, and largest conservative audience in the state of Tennessee, we've got a handful of advertisers. We could use some more. Email me, Brandon@TennesseeConservativeNews.com, Brandon@TennesseeConservativeNews.com, or news@TennesseeConservativeNews.com. You can write us off in your marketing budget and help a conservative cause. I can think of nothing better to do if you're a small business owner like me who's been lucky, who's made a little money, to give back to this cause. Guys, here's a trumpet call for you small business owners who listen to my podcast. Get off the couch, guys. Get off the couch. Help us out. Help us out publicly. You'll be worm food in 30 years. It's great to tell your kids Daddy stood up for something, Mommy stood up for something. Help us out. All right. Sam Whitson. Terrible. Tennessee House Bill. Now, I had to catch you up on this one, okay? Tennessee House Bill aimed at censoring news organizations, advocacy groups, amended to conform to Senate version, removing controversial elements. They basically put in a bill that said if you did anything, talked about them, whatever, they would characterize you as a PAC, whether you were a news organization, a church. If you told your people, your parishioners, put together a pamphlet or something, sent out an email, and the email was too big, if you spent or received more than $2,000, they were going to try to use the Campaign Finance Board in Tennessee like a club to shut everybody up for telling these folks out in radio and internet land that people like Sam Whitson have bad voting records and they're RINOs and they do not represent what their constituents want. And they've never had, until they shut everything down and woke everybody up, they've never had aggressive organizations simply telling the truth about their voting records, the fact that their money comes from out of the district, and if you have not got that report, followthemoneyreport.com, and that it comes from special interest, and they don't do the will of the people. The legislation, as it was originally written, gave news outlets, advocacy groups, some companies, and individuals few options. They could choose to conform to the redefinition and be subject to regulations and penalties originally meant for campaign financing, or allow themselves to be silenced just for mentioning the name or showing the face of a political figure. And this is, Senator Briggs was with this guy too. Briggs said, did not like it before it became a public issue. Why do you carry bills that you don't read and that you don't agree with? Why? Oh, God, I just carried it. I didn't read it and I didn't agree with it. Bull, you know what, you liars. When you put your name on something and you tell me you don't believe it, you don't read it, I don't believe it. You hoped you could sneak this thing in and then arbitrarily use it, just like the Tennessee Finance Board is going after Gary Humble at Tennessee Stands because he almost beat the majority leader, and he's made a lot of noise, and he's made it very difficult for these people that are bought and paid for by the medical establishment and other places to do things in the dark. They're feeling the heat from their people out in the district because people are finally starting to get the truth. You can't believe how many GOP chairs, Patriot Group folks, and activists are on my email list, and they're on my social media list. We're telling them the truth about you. You don't want me to be talking about you, don't do goofy stuff. This is your record. It's not your personality. I don't care about your personality. I care about your policy. Whitson stated that they wanted the redraft version passed in the Senate committees first to hide any other concerns. The extended concern surrounding the bill came when it was made clear that the House sponsor of the bill intended to adopt the Senate amendment. When the House version of the bill adopted the redrafted Senate version of the bill this week, it appears that the House may now be in line with the Senate with the current version of the legislation. However, we have to keep an eye on it because they are sneaky up there and they will lie through their teeth. And they will keep things hidden. And they'll put it in caption bills. They'll sneak it in at the last moment. These folks are not about doing things above board in plain sight up there. And that all comes down from the top. Next story, bill of establishing term limits in Tennessee killed in committee by Republican supermajority. Bill Lee made term limits a campaign promise, along with a bunch of other stuff he never did. A bill that would have helped create a referendum process that would have enabled the public to vote, whether or not elected and appointed officials could be held to term limits, was voted down by the Republican supermajority in the House Election and Campaign Finance Subcommittee. House Bill 118 is introduced, sought to establish a referendum process by which the electorate of a local government in the state may establish 16-year term limits. The bill was pushed for presentation due to lack of support among committee members. An amendment was added to remove any impact it would have on members of the General Assembly and the governor, who you'd think the governor would really want that because the governor said it was a campaign promise. Boy, you can't trust that man's promises. He's a big guy. You can't trust him as far as you can throw him. Why promise stuff you're not going to do and then act like you didn't say it? That's not a man of honor. Even with those changes, there was not enough support to get the bill through the committee process. In prior conversations with Representative Brian Ritchie, sponsor of the bill, said this issue polls at 70% for Tennesseans or so, and it's an issue that clearly people want to see this session. Well, Representatives Jeff Burkhart, John Crawford, Esther Hayes Helton, we're seeing her name a lot, Jerome Moon, and Tim Rudd voted no on the legislation, along with Democrat Larry Milder. The lone vote in support of the bill was from Republican Representative Clay Doggett. We just won't stay in office forever. All right, guys, I've already harangued you once, so I will make this brief. Support our work. Come on now. Sleep better at night. Where are you going to run once Tennessee turns blue? Tell me that. I'm doing my very dead level best to make it not turn blue, to keep it red, and to hold Republicans accountable. We have killed many terrible bills, and we are pushing many good bills along. I think one of the only reasons that bill passed out of committee, which we now have one to close the primaries, it's a little different, it's not as strong as the one that got killed, is because we showed the faces of everybody who wanted Democrats voting in Republican primaries, and our readers took action. That's the only reason. What they do, all these people look and see if they're going to get spanked, and when somebody else gets spanked and they know the same issue is coming before their committee, they're like, gosh, I don't want to have to go through what they went through. Truth has legs. Set it free. Help us. TennesseeConservativeNews.com/support. Mail us checks to 1523 East 27th Street, Chattanooga, Tennessee, 37404. Your words of encouragement and help are appreciated. All right, Tennessee lawmakers sneaking attack on human life protection via caption bill. Now, I am talking to Will Brewer immediately when I get off of this. We'll see what he has to say from Tennessee Right for Life. Referred to as the Life of the Mother Post-Dobbs Cleanup Act, House Bill 883 and Senate Bill 745 are in reality an attack on the strict abortion laws passed last year, weakening the law and offering to cover for abortionists in the state. Will Brewer of Tennessee Right to Life stated that House Speaker Cameron Sexton specifically designed the newly created Population Health Subcommittee this year to put members on it specifically so the bill would pass out of that committee onto the Health Committee. Brewer explained that the bill creates an exception so broad that any doctor can come up with a reason to terminate a pregnancy as long as they claim it has to be for the life of the mother or to treat or prevent a medical emergency. According to Brewer, Sexton very clearly indicated that this is a priority piece of his legislation. There are legislative tactics to not release this bill in public until just about 24 hours before committee time. The bill was scheduled to be heard again this week in the House and Senate committee, but was again pushed back next week for a vote. Tennessee Right to Life issued a statement that the discussions over the last couple of weeks have shown that even with adjusted definitions The legislation is unacceptable to the pro-life position. It cannot be reformatted into a sound bill that continues to effectively protect unborn children in our state. It amazes me. Cameron Sexton, I've never seen him go down there into a committee and make such an ass out of himself on issues of illegal immigration, on issues of getting kids out of failing schools, of closing primaries, of trying to stop corporate welfare. And any time that there are government bureaucrats and lobbyists that are trying to quote-unquote intimidate and pressure the committee, he doesn't ever show up. The only time he can fly down there from his lofty perch is when we're trying to find ways to keep unborn babies alive. Guy wants to run for governor. We don't need him. Okay, GLSEN sending rainbow library books into Tennessee schools. 75 Tennessee schools have received, the Gay, Lesbian, Straight Education Network since 2021 and 2022 school year. According to the organization's website, 40,000 Tennessee K-12 school children now have access to Rainbow Library that this gay organization has provided free of charge. Get your kids out of these failing public schools, these indoctrination centers. It's terrible. I could say some things right now on a personal level that I won't. Kids that I know going through this mess right now, parents having to combat it. Don't put your kids in places where this happens if you can help it. GLSEN sends posters, and additional resources with a collection of 10 books per grade called a Safe Space Kit. This garbage. GLSEN hopes that their Safe Space campaign will place these so-called resources in every middle school and high school in the country. Teachers receive curriculums. Yeah, can't read and write and do math in Tennessee, but we can figure out how to get off the rails and not know what sex we are. Last year, 66 Rainbow Library sets were sent to schools throughout the state. Of these sets, 85% went into schools that are predominantly serve low-income families. 52% ended up in urban areas. 29% went to suburban schools, and 20% went to rural areas. Amazing. Sorry. Where did I get out of? I think we got out of order here. Wrong slide. I may have thrown something down that I shouldn't have. That's my fault. I'm not a professional. I'm not a paid professional. That's for sure. All right, I'm just going to look around here, guys. Y'all talk amongst yourselves. Look at this. Look at this. Let me back up here. See? I don't know who's doing the audio visual around here, but they should be fired. Bill to ban implicit bias training for teachers passes Tennessee Senate Education Committee. Senate Bill 102, sponsored by Senator Gardenhire, has passed the Senate Education Committee. He's done a lot better job this year than he has and did last year. I think he was starting to feel the heat. I was afraid he was going to lose his seat, and he may yet still. I'm surprised at the turnaround. The guy's doing better than he used to. He used to be my senator. The bill would prohibit mandatory bias training for Tennessee teachers. Basically, it's a training that tells you if you're white, you're racist. If you're white, you're racist. Okay? The bill defines implicit bias training as a training or other educational program designed to expose an individual to biases that the trainings or educational program developer or designer presumes the individual to unconsciously, subconsciously, or unintentionally possess. That's how you know it's bad curriculum to begin with. This is all in the realm of cult Marxist imagination. Back to the story. I just read this stuff and I'm just amazed that this is how bad our public education system has gotten to where bills like this have to be passed. And I've said it before. It'd almost be like if you were in a daycare that was so bad and the daycare system was so bad that the legislature had to pass a bill that said, okay, guys, we can't have toddlers with knives anymore. Toddlers with knives and guns. We can't have that. Killing each other and stabbing each other. When things are so bad that you have to pass stuff like this, that's how you know your kids should not be in these environments and that we need school choice options to get them out. Gardenhire said, I resent the implication that I have bias on something and would want to be forced to take a training I didn't think if it applied to me, so that's what brought this bill along. The bill passed with all senators voting in favor of the legislation with the exception of Democrat Rameshia Hakbari, who voted against. The bill will now be referred to the calendar of Senate Finance, Ways and Means Committee. Sorry for getting that out of order. All right, guys, that's it. I'm running a little late for an interview. So you're going to have to hop off here quickly. Please do go to TennesseeConservativeNews.com. Subscribe to our newsletter. If for some reason you don't get our e-newsletter and you get this through podcasts or social media, stop what you're doing right now. Hit the pause button. Go to TennesseeConservativeNews.com. There's a subscribe button. Hit that button so we can contact you via email. We send it out every day at 11:30. What are we doing this weekend? I got to hurry up. I forgot about the donate stuff. I forgot to even tell you that when you donate, we send you... This is terrible. See, I'm out for 1 week and I just lose my mind. Losing stories. Don't tell you what you get when you donate. If you donate, you will get 2 bumper stickers, the Proud Tennessee Conservative bumper sticker, the Don't California My Tennessee bumper sticker. We're about to redo those with another slogan. So get these. These will be vintage one day. This Proud Tennessee Conservative tumbler we will send to you if you give $50 or more or a donation of $10 or more a month recurring. You will get this Proud Tennessee Conservative koozie, which can also be used as a handy-dandy mask. You know, just like it said when Bill Lee spent all that money that said face it, masks work. Is it now that we say face it, masks don't, and there was never any evidence to begin with? I'll never forgive those people. I'll be glad when they're all gone. I'm going to outlive them all anyway. And we will send you this Tennessee Conservative directory of all your legislative critters in the Senate and the House. So what are we doing this weekend? This weekend. Tonight, I'm going to hang out with the youngins while Mama goes and gets some things done. I think she's getting her nails done, getting her hair did. I don't know if she's getting her hair did. But I'm going to do that. Saturday, I'm just going to hang around the house because I was gone all last week on work. I was out of town. I don't like being out of town. I enjoy being at home. We're going to go to church Saturday night. And we are going to go on a date Sunday night. We've got a babysitter. So I'm just going to hang around the house. I've got some choring to do around the house. I've got some work to do on Saturday for our clients at the Painters Academy. So that is what is going to fill up my time. I'm just going to hang around the house, slouch around, hang around. Guys, I appreciate you being here with me. I did miss you last week, and I will try to get somebody to fill in next time. We just had some technical difficulties and could not get the Big 7 out without yours truly being here to shepherd it in. All right, guys, love you, mean it. Take care. This is Brandon Lewis with the 10 Con Big 7. Talk to you next week.